the Eastern Buddhist mysticism, some of the New Age infiltration of that has confused the original Freudian language on ego. The ego, according to Freud, there were three partite aspects of the psyche by Freud. One was the ego, the other one was the superego, and the other one was the id. When you're living by your highest value, you're waking up your ego. Your ego is your I, the identity that you wrap your life around. It's not pride. It's not shame. It's your I. It's reasonable. It's objective. It's authentic, etc. That's what the true ego meant. It's meant the essential self, the true I. It has been turned into, in nihilistic Buddhistic constructs, that they've turned into the idea that there's a universal ocean and this I is insignificant and it holds you back. Now, what happens is when you're living by lower values, you have what is called the id. And the id, when you're living by lower values, you shrink your objectives. You don't go after objectives, you go after impulses. And it's an impulsive and instinctual center that's ungoverned and uncontrolled. And that's why they call it the idiot, because iota meant tiny id, tiny psyche, shrunken psyche. Because when you live by your highest values, you tend to achieve things and you tend to set to bigger goals and to keep setting bigger goals and building momentum. That was associated with an expansion. And the id was a contraction of psyche, of potential. Those are accurate. But because of misinterpretation, the superego, which was the injected values of outer authorities, that then makes you feel proud if you live by their values and shamed if you don't, confuse the false ego of pride with the true ego, because that's an inflated part. But when you're living by your highest values, you have self-worth and you can continue to go and expand who you are. But when you go proud, you tend to exaggerate what you do, set goals that are too big in too short a time frame, and then get humbled. The true ego doesn't humble you. It sets real objectives. The false ego automatically humbles you and you get pride. And it's that pursuit of the fantasy and the exaggerated that is the one that the Buddhists are really referring to, the false ego, and not letting that interfere with the true calling. Because the second you're objective, your human will matches the order of the universe, because you're not judging. You're not trying to change you relative to others or others relative to you. You're seeing things in order and you're grateful and you're using, in a sense, you're aligning with what actually is. Om Tat Sat, as the Eastern mystic said. In that state, you're graced, you're inspired, you take action spontaneously, you tend to achieve things, you tend to want to tackle bigger problems and solve bigger mysteries. You want to keep probing. That's an expansion of your being, a greater pursuit of the grand divine design, as you will, the master plan of the universe. But the false ego is the one that's going to make you go into pride and cocky and think you're successful. A man on a mission or an individual on a mission is different than a person who thinks they're successful and cocky. So that's where the false ego has been confused. You need to get rid of that. But you don't. What it is a symptom to let you know that you're not living authentic and that you're subordinating and trying to live in other people's values. So that's a symptom that will get humbled automatically. You don't have to worry about it being humbled. It will be humbled. And it's there to try to get you back into your own center. When you're centered and not eccentrically polarized into pride and shame and exaggerated and depressed self-image or whatever, self-esteem, and you're really authentic with true self-worth, you grow. So your true ego is not something to be ridding yourself of. The false ego, which has been confused in all the literature, is a thing that people are saying you have to transcend. You have to sacrifice that animal nature for the angelic divine nature inside you.